during the first availment from 2019 to 2021, there was a lot of interested taxpayers who wanted to settle, especially if there's a lot of decedents or for the, several estates, successive estates that were not settled yet, and estate taxes were remained unpaid. So, but the problems that were encountered at that time is that the extrajudicial settlement, that document or the court order was required. So even if a lot were interested, but only a few availed because of the fact that they were having difficulty in complying with that document, the extrajudicial settlement or the judicial settlement or the court order. Now, for the second availment, um, it was already removed. That requirement was already removed, and those who were not able to availed of that amnesty. But we noticed, Mr. Chairman, that those who were not able to avail, even if they wanted to, but they have no means, they have no financial capacity to pay. So what? Well, this was it's not one of my client, but it was shared among well during some discussion that what they were able to afford to pay, then that's the only property that they declared. So it's still possible. And they were also asking if is it possible to pay by installment the estate tax, because even if they wanted to settle, they have no means to do so. So ang naiwan na lang, ang nagka-avail is yung may means, merong pambayad. So yung mga gustong mag-avail, yung mga walang pambayad, even if it's like 100,000 or 200,000, even if they wanted to pay, wala talagang pambayad. Kasi puro lupa, puro talagang hindi siya liquidated na asset. Now, what some they may have declared portion of the properties, and then yun lang yung binayaran nila. So ang nangyayari, it's to their advantage kasi parang nag-installment in effect during the 4 years, and if ever magiging 6 years yung extension. So I think yung benefit is for those who really have no means to settle in full yung estate tax amnesty, even the 6% rate. Marami talaga ang nahirapan din because they're just heirs, and then wala naman pambayad yung property nila, lupa. And even if they want, yung iba ng utang, and then they sell. Pero marami, I would think maraming ganun. And then, so ang magbe-benefit nito are those group of taxpayers. And of course, if the expansion of the coverage from 2018 to 2021 ng mga estates, yun ang additional collection for the Bureau. Because it is during that time that, during the pandemic also, they're also struggling to come up with funds. So hindi lang, so yung 2017 siguro konti na lang. But for 2018 to 2021, maybe yan yung siguro major additional source of collection for the Bureau.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Nancy.
Hindi kasi 'di ba parang paulit-ulit mo nga nababanggit na nakakailang extension na tayo. But I don't know if ngayon dapat 'to pag-usapan, but siguro nga baka dapat pag-aralan na rin natin na baka let's do away with estate tax. Kasi parang hirap tayo mag-collect, and in a way 'di ba pag kunyari may mga properties naman yan, magbabayad din ng cap gains yung mga heirs pag nilipat nila sa pangalan nila. Kasi katulad nga nung nabanggit nung ating resource person, talagang hirap pagdating dun sa bayaran, lalong-lalo na pag nag-aaway yung magkakapamilya or there's not enough cash kasi puros lupa yung assets nung namatay. So baka maganda din tignan if policy-wise kung dapat na ba din natin pag-aralan na wala na to do away with estate tax. Yan lang po, Mr. Chairman.
That's a subject matter that that we will study, and I also am calling on the DOF and the BAR to study Senator Binay's proposal on removing estate tax all in all. No? I think that's a subject matter that we can look at later on as a proposal. No? Going by what Attorney Suzette mentioned earlier, kung wala na ho talaga silang maibabayad, then extending it will not do anything. Like, I just want to dive into that. No, if the capacity to pay is an issue, then extending it will not have any effect, because what happened is we exhausted everyone already. You know, is that a valid comment?
Unless they want to avail of the extension as another means for paying in installment, your Mr. Chair.
Okay. But how can you pay it in installment? Because the BAR does not accept installment. So how do you pay in installments?
In the they will declare in the ETR that property that they can afford, and then they will amend for the next year. Then they pay another additional property, Your Honor. Mr. Chair.
Konti-konti, in other words.
Chairman.
Yeah, piecemeal, in other words. No? Yeah, Senator Binay?
Question, kasi di ba parang kung ang question lang pala ay yung giving them a longer time to pay, should we include a provision dun sa this amnesty na kahit tapos na yung amnesty, we will be parang giving authority to BIR na on their own they can already extend, kumbaga payagan nila yung hulugan. Can we get an opinion from kay Attorney Suzette? Kasi nga parang dun sa statement mo, lumalabas ngayon, it's the capacity to pay. Should we include na may ganong provision para hindi na babalik ulit to extend the amnesty, but to give that authority to BIR?
Attorney Suzette, you want to answer that? Or comment on that?
Yeah, for the current estate tax amnesty law, it does not provide for installment payment. But the recent tax code under the train law, it already provides installment payment, but not the prior law. So I'm not sure if baka nga I'm not sure if that's it's up for the legislature to decide.
Question is putting an installment provision in the bill, will that assist those who cannot pay and have problems in terms of capacity to pay? Is that feature something that can help collect additional estate tax? Kasi the argument here is we've reached a point, we've exhausted everyone who can pay. No? I think that's the argument. Now we're reaching out to those who has lesser capacity to pay. No? So an installment might be a way for them to avail of the amnesty. No? Is that a possible feature? Because in the regular, there's installment, correct? But I know the argument here, amnesty na nga, may installment pa, no? So, yun ang argument. But I'm just saying, if we will extend this as it is, then wala tayong makokolekta, no? Wala tayong makokolekta. So, we're actually tapping into our constituents who are not capable of paying one time. No? Kasi if they can pay one time, they've done it a long time ago. No? So is that a feature that the BIR and DOF can accommodate?
Sir, really the tax code provides under the regular estate tax procedure for an installment. It's actually 2 years to pay through installment. But in the amnesty, precisely because it is an amnesty that gives relief to taxpayer in terms of paying the penalties for the non-payment. So parang yun nga, wala siyang provision on installment payment.
But if we do include that, is that a possible, administratively, is that possible?
BIR is doing it now. The
Yeah,
installment,
correct.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
possible, no? So if we
Under the
embed it-
regular estate tax
Yes.
payment, we're doing the installment.
correct. So if we embed that here to help our poor constituents, I think what we want to tap here is our poor constituents na eh. No? Administratively, it's not a problem. Conceptually, I think we'll reach out to a different segment of our taxpayers. Then I think it's logical to include that feature, an installment feature. You pay, but if you, for example, you pay, but if you forfeit, if you don't pay on time, then it's forfeited. No? Something to that effect.
Siguro,
Ah.
just Chairman, I think madami din dun sa mga heirs na hindi rin ganun ka-liquid. I mean, di ba, pwedeng marami silang lupa, pero wala naman silang cash. So, hindi rin nila kayang bayaran kaagad. So, baka kaya kailangan may ganitong hulugan, kumbaga, parang tiers muna kahit naka-amnesty na because baka nga yung hindi pa nila nabibigyan ng solusyon kung saan sila kukuha ng cash to pay for their estate tax.
Ika nga, diba, sa Tagalog, parang pinipiga ang dugo sa bato. Parang napiga na natin lahat eh. So unless we offer something different or we offer something more lenient, then we will don't expect anything in return. Don't expect any collection, no? So a proposal is to embed a installment feature in the bill. Is that administratively it's possible, no? But I just want to seek guidance from the DOF and the BIR, no?
Mr. Chair, based on our discussion, the installment provision may be a good provision, Mr. Chair. We are just requesting if we can just shorten it, say even for an installment for 1 year instead of the regular 2 years, considering that we have already removed the penalty. But I think that can be accepted, Mr. Chair, the providing for a installment to accommodate as well our taxpayers and citizens who are in need of funds to avail of this amnesty, Mr. Chair.
That acceptable, Senator Binay, since this is your proposal?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Siguro, with the guidance from BIR, we'll just craft the proposed amendment.
We'll craft with the BIR that propose 1 year installment. Total naman in the regular estate, there's 2 years installment. No? So administratively, it's not a problem. It's just the concept that we're seeking guidance. And I would like to emphasize on the comment of Attorney Suzette being the representative of our taxpayers through TMAP. I think she made a very strong point, no, that we have already exhausted. Lahat ng kaya magbayad has already paid. No? And then we're now tapping into a segment of our constituents who are not liquid, who need extra assistance in terms of payment. Maybe with this installment, they can encourage their relatives or their family to cough up some amounts because it's easier for all of them. No? So I think it's a good feature that we can embed for humanitarian reasons. No, yeah. So with that, we'll carry that amendment, and I'm directing the committee secretary to take note and craft that language. No. Before I go back to DOF and BIR, let me go to other resource persons. Neda, who's here. Any comments on this bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Senator Win, Gatchalian, Senator Padilla, and Senator Binay. If you would allow me to just read the comments from our secretary that's cleared by Secretary Balasacan. So we are in support of the proposal extending the estate tax amnesty for another 2 years to give consideration to taxpayers who were unable to avail of the program given the mobility restrictions and limited operations of the government during the COVID-19 pandemic, and to those who were financially affected by income losses during the pandemic. We also note that the Estate Tax Amnesty Act broadly complements measures aimed at increasing tax compliance as contained in Chapter 11.2 of the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028. The International Monetary Fund notes that a successful tax amnesty program is expected to increase the tax base, thereby increasing tax compliance and future revenue collection as tax evaders are brought into the tax net. Nonetheless, the amnesty program should be followed by a commitment to a stronger tax enforcement to increase compliance and ensure stable revenue gains. We also support the proposal of expanding the coverage of the availment of the estate tax amnesty for those who died on or before December 31, 2021, only amending Section 4 of Republic Act number 11213. This will help many taxpayers settle the tax liabilities and obligations of decedents during the pandemic, as they might have been unable to do so then, primarily due to financial constraints. And lastly, we support the proposal to amend Section 6 of Republic Act number 11213 to include a list of mandatory documentary requirements to be submitted to the Bureau of International or Internal Revenue to avail of the estate tax amnesty. While NEDA defers to the Department of Finance on the list of specific documentary requirements needed to be submitted, we deem that this proposed amendment will aid taxpayers to ascertain clearly the documents that need to be prepared and submitted to avail of the tax amnesty, and remove the unnecessary risk of the taxpayer's application being reverted or rejected for lacking other requirements not stated in the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.